Welcome back. I want to say that I'll get straight into it, but before I continue with my initial reactions, I've made some discoveries over my multiple viewings that I have found too interesting not to talk about. Here are those important details. While this show does not officially feature God, a somewhat important being from this show's chief inspiration, they do have a stand-in for God, that being the government of heaven. If Visipop's true message of the show is government bad, perhaps this show understands redemption after all. This show is unable to distinguish between good and kind and nice. There's a reason why we separated these words. While their modern meanings might have been blurred, one must not forget that being called nice was seen as an insult, as it meant that you were easy to exploit and abuse by the selfish and evil. Being called good or kind, on the other hand, has no such roots. One can be harsh and ruthless while still remaining good and kind, such as telling a harsh truth that someone does not want to hear, or slaughtering enemies in battle. One can still remain good and kind, even when they have to be merciless and full of judgment. Husker is Alistair's slave, yet neither Charlie or Vaggie express any opposition or outrage at that fact. The closest they came to addressing this was in the pilot, which I'm not even sure is canon, where Alistair pays him in drinks, although the actual show kind of implies this isn't the case, and Husker has no choice in the matter. You'd think a good person and an angel would have reservations about working with someone who practices slavery. There's also the fact that Husker is practically the first thing newcomers see when they arrive at the hotel. It must send a bizarre message about the morality one must have in order to get into heaven, especially via the path of redemption. Charlie, being the daughter of Lucifer and one of the few residents in hell who has active access to look at an angel in her father, and presumably other angels as well, doesn't recognize Vaggie, a woman with angelic features such as hair color, skin tone, and so on, as an angel. Even when she starts wielding a spear, a common weapon wielded by the angels. Despite how the writers have written Charlie, she isn't actually meant to have an IQ around the temperature of the dark side of the moon, meaning for her to miss all of these qualities in Vaggie should have been impossible. That is, of course, unless Season 2 reveals that Charlie is suffering from brainletitis. If I were a writer for the show, and I had to not retcon or change anything for Season 2, I would write a reveal that would reframe and explain why everything about the hotel, even Charlie's obsession with redemption despite knowing nothing about it, made perfect sense. You see, it would be revealed over the course of the season just how alike her father Charlie truly is, her pride and arrogance becoming more and more noticeable, especially since some of those who die under her teaching do genuinely seem to go to heaven, fueling her ego even more. However, there would be a breaking point, a point where no matter what Charlie does, no one seems to be able to go to heaven. Something changes, but Charlie doesn't know what. It then gets revealed that Emily had secretly been pulling some strings to allow those she had thought become good enough to get into heaven. and she was no longer allowed access to that device or magic. Charlie's pride is shattered in that moment, but it gets worse. All those sinners that she and Emily had put into heaven are now causing problems, and everything is in disarray. She and Emily had accidentally pulled a Trojan horse on heaven, and now the gates were to be shut forever. Now everyone is out for Charlie's blood, wanting her and all of the hotel staff dead for what they see as a betrayal from both them and heaven. But it doesn't stop there. Oh no, there's one thing that the show seems to have forgotten. Lucifer is the devil. Everything that has happened up to this point, starting from the very idea of a hotel for redemption to Charlie making an ally in an angel, was all his machinations. Satan groomed Charlie from birth to be his Antichrist. He put the idea into her head about creating a hotel to allow sinners to check out of hell. He's the one who made sure that hell was crammed into a single city, constantly overflowing with sinners, even though hell is an immaterial place and has infinite space to spare. He is the one that made Charlie a useful idiot, teaching her to be nice, that people are truly good and nice if you just force those ideas onto them. He is the one pulling Alistair's strings, commanding him to look after his daughter, ordering him to be antagonistic to him so that no one would suspect the two of them were working directly together. For the angelic ally, he knew that Charlie's charisma could convince at least one of them to be on her side, to truly try and give sinners a chance at heaven. It was all leading up to this. Lucifer and the other fallen angels who rebelled against heaven could never win a fair fight against heaven. But they never intended to. For over 6,000 years, since the first time a sinner came to hell, they have been plotting and scheming, following their leaders' commands to fill humanity with sin and to keep them angry at heaven for casting them out. Now, all of them return to hell at once, and with a great speech about all of the treasures and glory denied to them in hell, but that can be found within heaven, the devil will rally all the sinners to his cause, the pillaging and taking of heaven. All the while Charlie, his own daughter, will be cast aside. After all, her role in his plan is over. She's no longer a useful tool, but rather a liability. He can't actively be seen sending sinners or fallen angels to kill her. The PR would be disastrous. So instead, he'll simply forget about her, leaving her to the sinners who are now, more than ever, enraged at what they see as heaven's betrayal, a weakened heaven's betrayal. There is a show called The Good Place. It's a show about a woman who accidentally gets sent to the good place, even though she belongs in the bad place. I was going to go into a whole comparison between these two shows, but The Good Place, despite its slow and admittedly cringeworthy start, is a show that's best viewed with virgin eyes. Don't read summaries or look up the plot. Just give it a watch. That's the best way to experience it. All I will say is that it's a lot better at exploring concepts like redemption than Hazbin Hotel. It is also leagues funnier. Another setting that does the afterlife better is the world of darkness, specifically the setting of the Far Shore. You can find out about that by following the link in the description. On another note, in biblical mythology, there are only male angels, meaning Emily and Sarah should be Emmanuel and Cedric. And last but not least, I don't know what's going on with Vaggie's voice actress, but she either sucks or isn't giving her all, because she makes Vaggie sound so bored and lifeless, even compared to the rest of the cast. The only time Vaggie doesn't sound like she's dying of boredom is when she's singing. Knowing the politicking of Hollywood, this probably means Vaggie has a different voice actress for her songs. Finally, I recommend Mecha Knight. He has a great series of videos going over Hazbin Hotel and Helluva Boss's shared universe, some from a Christian perspective, others covering different aspects of the twin shows. Now, please like and subscribe as we return to my initial reactions. Where's the vanishing point in this shot? All of the objects look like they're PNGs placed on the image.
What about the news? Look at what's happening in the Doomsday District.
Why does Hell have a Doomsday District? It's already doomed, damned, and defiled. But this might be in reference to the Extermination Hourglass. Well, if that's the case, then I suppose that makes sense.
Hello there, Velvet. How are you this hellish morning?
Oh, cut the shit, folks. I need you up here now.
I just realized the denizens of Hazbin Hotel's Hell mostly have American accents, specifically Western United States and Latin America. I believe the psychedelics call that a Freudian slip.
With Lucifer's bimbo daughter.
Angel is living with Lucifer's daughter now?
Yeah, that bitch chalky, champ.
There are two notes I wish to make here. Firstly, Valentino, who I summarized to be a high-ranking sinner who has lived in hell for a long time, has no idea who Lucifer's daughter is. Secondly, I thought Valentino's favorite sin was forbidden pleasures, so Charlie, the daughter of Lucifer, arguably the only untouchable thing in hell, should be his foremost object of desire.
It's been 7 years!
You still...
Alistair has been away for 7 years. That actually brings me to an important question. When is this show meant to take place? The show's main influence is undoubtedly Prohibition-era America. The Art Deco architecture with a hellish twist, the dapper suits, the rampant crime. But this era did not last forever. Yet this show seems to suggest that not only has Hell decided to stick with Prohibition trends that only apply to one place on Earth, but Hell has also run away with it, not developing any new cultural or fashion trends, yet at the same time deciding to give the characters mobile phones. The creators also decided to give each character the linguistic tick of your average internet conversation, and the modern day vernacular to go with it, such as the word twink. So, when does this show take place? Is it the 1920s, as the dress code would suggest? Or is the show set in the now, as the way they act would suggest? Or maybe I'm putting more thought into this show than the creators ever did.
Still pissed he almost beat you that time?
Fuck you!
Just saying.
While I'm directing my criticism at this TV sinner, it could honestly be applied to all of them, but especially to the most powerful ones. The most powerful sinners of hell should not be acting like man-children. A sinner's power in this show seems to come from the souls they have under contract. At least that's what I gather. Acting like a man-child with even one other sinner should absolutely ruin that sinner's reputation. In public, a sinner should act like a sophisticated psychopath, suave, competent, charismatic, seductive. If you want him to act like a man-child, he should believe himself to be fully alone, away from prying eyes. A sinner at the top of the ladder can only go down, and the difference between remaining there or being stepped on by another taking your place could be one misplaced hair on your head. If you can be so easily provoked, you can be so easily manipulated. The easily manipulated don't make it to the top of the ladder, and they certainly don't stay there for long.
Where's he been? Who gives a shit?
This show seems to have prioritized putting in swear words over good, on-theme wordplay. The lyric, "Who gives a shit?" should have been, "Who gives a damn?" It would have accomplished the same end goal, been more in theme with the setting of the show, and would have reduced the number of swears crammed into this script.
Tiny prick, I'll show you suffering.
Uh-oh, the TV is buffering.
I'll destroy you.
The best character design in this show, at least so far, also points out my problem with the character designs in this show. I really like how Vox is designed, how they play around with his TV screen head, glitching it, and how his eyes swim around. The problem isn't all of these details. The problem is that every character has the same level of details. In most visual mediums, if you want to make an important character stand out, you give them distinguishing features. The more important, the more or grander those features. It's why a king doesn't just wear his regal garb, but also a crown. If everyone were to start wearing a crown, finding the king suddenly becomes quite difficult. If you must give characters features, then make sure they are relevant to the story, telling us more about that character and their role in the narrative through visual storytelling. This one song, while not perfect, has been so much more fun than the rest of the show that I legitimately forgot that this wasn't the main focus of the show. I very much prefer Vox as a villain to Charlie as a character, and I hope that the conflict between Alistair and Vox becomes the main focus. After all, the only good thing Hollywood seems to be able to write these days are villain protagonists. Write what you know, and all that.
Someone pathetic, desperate, with no direct ties to us.
Dear filthy Yankees, please stop doing old world accents. Your butchery of our beautiful dialects, obviously excluding Scouser, Geordie and Mancunian, is insufferable to listen to. But if you must have someone do an English accent, at least be a darling and hire an actual English voice actor or voice actress. After all, it doesn't take even an untrained ear to hear the difference between a true Cockney or Brummie accent and whatever you imagine it to be. P.S. Through the grapevine known as Watching the Pilot, I have learned that Sir Pentious' voice actor was originally William Stamper, a fine bloke who can actually do a proper posh accent, one that could actually pass as English. P.S. If you want to hear proper Cockney and Brummie accents, I recommend the movie Snatch, or the video game Saints Row 2.
Retail.
Sorry, I'm just so excited to have our first real guest.
While I have plenty of complaints to level at Charlie, I cannot fault her voice actress. She genuinely seems to be putting her all into this role, and enjoying it as well.
It starts with sorry. Path to forgiveness is a twisting trail of hearts.
Huh?
It starts with sorry.
Alright, enough with the memes. It should be very clear why this song doesn't work. Every sinner, the moment they appear in hell, is sorry. But the fact they appear in hell proves that it's a little too late to change their minds and ways. Also, no, redemption does not start with sorry. It starts with realizing that what you did was wrong, and more importantly, why. Sorry isn't always a factor in that equation, but it often can be, especially if you're asking forgiveness from God. Why is this song written and visually depicted as a love song? These two aren't even friends yet, but the way the choreography and music plays makes it seem like Sorry was inspired mostly by love ballads, not by songs of redemption.